Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shlakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Kaurachandraya Radhikai Tadale Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namah Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. First of all, I offer my Sastang Dandavat Puspanjali, my heart like flowers thousands of times at the lotus feet of my holy master, my supremely worshipable spiritual Gurudev. Asmati Paramaradatam Guru Pada Padma Nitya Lila Parvishta Om Vishnu Pada Ashtol Tarasata Sri Rupanugacharya Varya Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. Secondly, I offer my pranam at the lotus feet of my Guru's Guru, my Param Gurudev, to Srila Prabhupada and to all of our Sri Rupanuga Gaudiya Guru Parampara. And finally, I offer my pranam to all the guests, all devotees, all Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. Srila Gurudeva ki Jai! For 5 days we have been discussing so many spiritual topics, and I want to give the chance to devotees to ask their questions. So this morning we will have the Istagosthi, questions and answers before the wedding. So if you have any question, and this is open to everyone, not just the devotees, not just those who are practicing Bhakti for many years, but also all the guests, any persons who are new. If you have any question in your mind, you can raise your hand and ask your question. Don't be shy. Yes, so you can raise your hand if you have a question. Yes. Nandikishore.
Gurudev, as I understand it, in Nistha, a devotee has reached a platform where he has certain realization of Shakshitva, because his chitta is cleaner. So he has some Atmagyan. How is this Atmagyan different from the devotee in Sattvagun who knows how to distinguish between the body and the soul?
Thank you. This is a very beautiful question. There are many persons who practice some type of meditation, and they cultivate the sattva gun, the mode of goodness in their life. Gradually, it is said in Bhagavad Gita, from sattva gun comes Gyan, knowledge, the discrimination between matter and spirit. Sattvat sanjayate jnanam. From the mode of goodness, from the clarity of the consciousness, from the steadiness of mind, one can naturally realize, I am not this physical body. And even one can realize, I am not the various oscillations and products of my mind. Because in a high level of the goodness, of purity, then one develops sakshitva, that is the quality of being a witness. Generally a person identifies with the complex of the body and mind and thinks, I, the subject, this body and mind, I am a subject, and I am subjectively experiencing the objects of the world. I am witnessing the world. So the subject is the body and mind, and the world is the object. But when a person develops the inner sanctity and inner steadiness, then they realize, oh, the subject, myself, I am Atma, the soul, and the object is not only the world, not only my body, but one can also see the movements of one's own mind as the object from the perspective of the soul. When the mind is oscillating, when it's turbulent, when there are fluctuations in the mind, then naturally the self, the soul, his identity becomes blended in, and he thinks, I am, whatever is going on in the mind, that is me. But when the mind becomes steady and peaceful, then that identification separates, and one sees one's own mind as an object from the vantage point of the soul. Now the question is, in this experience, is there a difference for the person who is doing some type of yoga or impersonal meditation, and the devotee who has actually come by practicing Bhakti Yoga to the stage of Nistha, steadiness? So if someone was just following Dharma or impersonal meditation and they come to Sattva Gun, then Kaivalyam Sattvikam Jnanam. He only experiences oneness. He will experience that the foundation of everything is just an undifferentiated light with no particular characteristics other than light. And he'll also identify with that. And he'll think that the varieties of this world, they are simply illusion. Because a light which has no characteristics could not manifest varieties, a world filled with variety, because it has no Shakti or desire or will or anything, because it's empty. This is why also the truth cannot be understood through logic. Yasmin virudagatiyo yanisham patanti. Dhruva Maharaj realized that light. But because he was a devotee, he understood, oh, this light is coming from somewhere. It is the partial manifestation of the aura of God. And even though that light itself appears to have no variety and no Shakti, but still from that come Vidya and Avidya and all the dualities of the material world. Yad Brahma Niskalam Anantam Ashesha Bhutam. It does not make sense. Yasmin viruddha gatayo yanisham patanti. So Dhruva Maharaj said, oh my Lord, you have potencies which contradict themselves even, and they are contrary to our intuition and our calculation. Logic depends on the law of non-contradiction. If one thing contradicts another, then it can be accepted as true according to logic. Is God limited by the law of non-contradiction? No. And this is why our human logic cannot approach or understand the transcendental realm. At least we can logically understand that God has achintya shakti, inconceivable potencies. So the person who by following Dharma has cultivated Sattva Gun will have the experience. Kaivalyam Sattvikam Jnanam, everything is one. But he cannot know that beyond that there is the eternal transcendental variety. So the devotee who has come in the stage of Nistha, steadiness, then he will also realize the light of Brahman everywhere. But because he has received mantra from his Guru, and by serving Guru and engaging in the angas of devotional service, he has pleased Sri Krishna. Then Sri Krishna is pleased to reveal the reflection of his own beautiful transcendental form in the pure chitta of that devotee. This is a very beautiful point. Don't think that just because your mind became steady that you can have Krishna's darshan. It's like if there's a mirror covered in dust, if you clean off the dust, then you can see things reflected in it. But don't think that just because the mirror of your chitta has become cleansed that you can see Krishna. There's something extra required, that is, He's only revealed by his own sweet will. So when Supreme Lord is pleased with that devotee, he will manifest himself. But especially he's pleased when a person has served Krishna's near and dear saint, that is Sri Guru. So it is said, Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado, that by the mercy of Guru, one receives the mercy of Sri Krishna. Another very fine and interesting point is raised here. Those who are practicing the Ashtanga Yoga, which is described by Patanjali in his sutras, Yoga Sutras, they want to realize Paramatma, not Bhagavan, the original form of God, but the expansion of God who is present in everyone's heart in this world, who is responsible for the creation, maintenance and destruction of material existence. Paramatma Vishnu. In the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami gives some description about the correct path for such a yogi doing Ashtanga Yoga. He reveals some very fine points which are not touched directly in the Yoga Sutras. Everyone, make a very careful study of Srimad Bhagavatam. It is incomparable. First of all, he says that the yogis, they practice their meditation there is a preliminary practice and then a more advanced practice. If the yogi is sitting and remembering his mantra, Om, he wants to realize the Vishnu in the heart. But if you have not seen Vishnu, how can you meditate on him? Sadatsana anubhutato namanas sprastumahati. Narad Muni said, you should know for sure that the mind can only think of something that you have already experienced in this life or in the previous life. The mind cannot touch anything that has not been experienced before. So if the yogi will think of Vishnu, it will not be Vishnu, it will be some kind of collage of his material experiences. Okay, 4 arms like this, and crown. Whatever he can remember about arms and crowns and things, he'll try to picture it. But that's actually not Vishnu. That's his vikalpa, a non-correlated thought construct. A construct of his own mind which is not correlated to the reality. Rajaso vikalpitam chayat. Imagination comes from the mode of passion. So how can a person who wants to come up to the high level of psychological goodness attain that by engaging in an activity which is rajasic, from the mode of passion? So many people think that they're doing meditation, but actually they're stirring up rajagun, the mode of passion, and various material samskars. So Shukadeva Goswami said that the yogi in the preliminary stage should meditate on Virat Roop, the universal form. Jiva Goswami comments that the reason he says this is because trying to meditate on something that you have not seen will cause vikalpa, but meditating on something you have experience of will make the lagutva of vikalpa. That means it will make the vikalpa less, lighter. Then there's a long detailed explanation of how the yogi in the preliminary stage meditates on the Virat Roop, that means God in his form of the universe. Or the sun is his eye. The rivers are his veins. The trees and grass are the hairs of his body. The various colored birds and parrots are his artistic sense. So there's a very long description of different aspects of the universe, and the yogi should meditate as if the entire universe is like the body of God in his Virat Roop, the universal form. Because that's something that he has seen. And also because by practicing this every day, when he opens his eyes and walks around, he won't have many different thoughts. But everything that he sees, he'll connect that with God. And this will make his mind become steady. The problem is that our mind is always churning with so many different ideas, different subjects. We see everything, duality everywhere. So that yogi, he will see God everywhere, so he'll have no other thought, only thoughts of God. Gradually, his mind approaches the stage of Nistha, steadiness. Then, when his mind is steady, simply by saying the mantra, Om, then Vishnu reflects his form in the steady chitta of the yogi. And then he comes to the second stage of meditating on the form of Vishnu, because there's no place for vikalpa, for the non-correlated thought constructs coming from Rajagun. He can meditate on Vishnu because he's seeing Vishnu who has manifested, because Vishnu is the form of the Omkar. But that realization will not come if he's only practicing yoga sadhana. He has to be practicing at least Bhakti Mishra Yoga. He's doing yoga but mixing some bhakti with it. So in the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali, in the niyams, regulations, he said one should do Ishvara Pranidhan, surrender to God. And that is, in the commentaries explained, it means actually Vishesh Bhakti, intense devotion to God. Without Bhakti, going beyond the impersonal realization to see at least Vishnu, which is a personal spiritual form, without Bhakti it's not possible. Because to realize something beyond that which is impersonal, the personal feature of God, then the personal feature of God has to personally decide to reveal himself to you in person. But because this is basically yoga with bhakti mixed in, then that person who comes to Nistha, he will not realize Bhagavan. He will not realize Krishna. Because those who are trying to realize Brahman on the path of Jnana, this is Aroha Panta, based on their own effort. The yogis who are trying to realize, and that is that whatever realization they have, this is called Asampurna Jnana, incomplete knowledge. If a yogi is trying to realize the Paramatma, though he's taking some help of bhakti, but actually the main portion is based on his own effort. So the yoga sadhana is also Arohapanta, the path of self-elevationism. So he will get knowledge, realization. If there's some bhakti there, he will realize Paramatma. But this knowledge is Kanda Gyan. Kanda means the divided. The meaning is this, that Kanda Gyan is knowledge which is subject to divisions, such as the divisions of time and divisions of space. So the soul does not have a nitya sambandha, eternal relationship with Paramatma. The soul is only related to Paramatma as long as they're in the material world. Once the soul goes to the spiritual world, then Paramatma Vishnu is still doing the creation in the material world. So that relation with Paramatma is limited by time. So that is Kanda Gyan. So by Arohapanta, one's own effort in self-elevationism, one can realize at most Brahman, Asampurna Gyan, incomplete knowledge, or Paramatma, Kanda Gyan, divided knowledge. But only a person, now you're asking the question, what's the experience of a person practicing pure bhakti? The person practicing pure bhakti is not on the Arohapanta, self-elevationist program. He is on the Avarohapanta, the descending path, where he depends completely on Shabda Brahma coming down and the mercy of God and his saints coming down. So when he comes to the stage of Nistha, then when Supreme Lord is pleased with him, and only then the form of Bhagavan, Krishna himself, will mercifully be reflected on the heart of that devotee. So though the realization is not complete then, but still Bhagavan is the Sampurna, complete tattva. So it's the beginning of Sampurna Gyan, complete knowledge. Does it answer your question?
Yes, Guru.
Yes. So if you want to study this in more detail, these very specific topics have been described in Gaudiya Darshan, this beautiful book that has been produced. the lectures of Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Swami Thakur. We're approaching the celebration of his 150th anniversary of his appearance in this world. And so for that celebration, we have translated and published this book. So it's very profound and beautiful, really. I think everyone who studies it carefully changes their life forever. So make sure you study this. Gaur Premanande. So just two Mahamantras. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Please bring your instruments, mridangas and everything there for the kirtan. Thank you. Hare Krishna.